All right, welcome back to TML Weekly. This is episode 19. Thanks as always to our sponsors, Bjorn, and Don Cherry's Sports Grill. So Leafs are 3-0 4-0, sorry, since the Rielly suspension. What do you guys think of that?
Nolan, you got the nerves tonight, eh?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get the Instagram live going at the same time.
All right, fair enough. We won't razz you too hard.
Yeah.
Listen, I want to send, before we get going here tonight, welcome everybody back. I want to send a special shout out to Cara Grace's volleyball team. They were in volleyball championships today for Halton. Came up a little bit short in the final, but a fantastic season by those young ladies, and they should be very proud of themselves. So shout out to Cara Grace and her team. As we get into talking about our team, man, what a week. I mean, how can you not love the response that we've seen from this team? Every time you think that we are, unable to figure it out and that we can't put it together and the odds are stacked against us, we go ahead and have a week like this. And it is unbelievable. It's shocking, but it's not surprising, if that makes sense. I feel like after the amount of years that we've all invested in this team, this is kind of par for the course. Love what I have seen. And if I'm going to be very honest, and Johnny, this is something that I've said and I've maintained for an extended period of time. This Maple Leafs team, when they want to, can play a sound defensive structured game. And I look at, if you go back to the last two games before the All-Star break against Winnipeg and you run it through, this team that we see right now, this is a team that's playing responsibly defensively. And they're getting not all-star level goaltending, adequate NHL goaltending. Proving, which is what I've said all along, when we want to play this way, we can. I'd like to see it more often. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's these guys are pros, right? You make it to the NHL. You've had individual success along the way. More often than not, you've had team success along the way. These guys all know how to play hockey, right? It's you're looking at it's a different group every year. I know I've said this to you in the past, John, but it's hard to compare, what we have now here in Toronto to last year going into the deadline when you pick up,
Rielly and everybody,
right? Because certain things happen along the way that define the team. I'm an old school hockey guy. You guys know that, right? I'm trying to embrace the new game, and I love the skill and the speed. But I'm a believer in momentum, and I'm a believer that there's certain things that happen over the course of the season that bring the group together. And the Mo Rielly cross-check did that. It did that. He's a top 10 for sure. Possibly you can make an argument that he's a top 5 defenseman in the league. If you look at it overall, what this guy brings to the table every night this season, in the past, I'll give it to you. This season, he's been next level, very, very, very good. And so this is twofold because here's a guy that traditionally has never been in trouble. I think he only had 4 penalty minutes or 2 penalty minutes.
He's a Lady Bing guy every year.
25-minute defenseman, having four minutes at the All-Star break is insane, right? Just being out there, you're going to get some bad calls.
Yeah.
But so to have him and the response, we talked about it last week. We don't get into that. I'd like to get into the appeal, but we'll talk about that in a bit. My point is, and then you take him out of the lineup, and now other guys have to step up. I think that's what this team needed. That this team needed an event like that to give you the adversity right in front of you and say, okay, we're going to go this way or we're going to go this way. And they chose to go and play the right way, like you said, took care of their own end. I can't stress how much of a leader Auston Matthews has shown through. Forget about the 49 goals and 53. 100%. Insane. But look what he's doing with the McMann kid. Okay? Read between the lines here. And I saw an interview with McMann after the other night, and he basically gave Auston credit. Said, hey, he's telling me to shoot more. He's saying I got a great shot, get in position. He's worked with him after practice on kind of that, the release. Now the kid's got confidence, right? Now the kid's got swagger. Now you've got another option that, you can put him anywhere in that lineup right now. The way he's going, right? Anywhere in that lineup. So options are coming, not going out and selling the farm.
100%.
Hockey club, and we've said it all along. They have to continue this, right? It's the end of February. You got about 6 weeks before these games are going to matter. So there's going to be some peaks and valleys coming through here, but I think they're on the right track. And then I read some guy today saying that now that they've shown that they can win without Morgan Rielly, we should trade him. And it's like there's nothing more asinine than that.
No,
right? They're not winning games here because Morgan Rielly's out of lineup. They're winning games because everybody else. Morgan Rielly plays the right way, always has. Right? He's an honest hockey player, and he's he contributes, and he doesn't mind mixing it up, and he'll do what it takes to win. The kid wants to win. But you're going to need that guy to be a horse going through a long stretch. But you can't say 8 out of 8. I said 4, and I was even thinking lower. I think I was going 2, and then I remember you saying, Nolan, that the record traditionally has been good without Rielly. I didn't know that stat, but that's alarming, right? That's alarming that you can take your top D out. And,
so let's actually look at that before we get too far down the road. I just want to build on the point that you said, and something that I was watching the game the other night it was family day in the afternoon, the St. Louis game, and Kara and I were watching the game, and it was right after Bertuzzi decided to go bar down from center ice, missed the net because Bertuzzi misses the net. Shocker. They come down and score. And Kara looked at me and went, oh, I don't like this. And then what I loved more so than Matthews scoring goals, and it's great and all that, was the absolute hustle by McMann on that goal. He just wanted that. He wanted the puck more. He wanted to score.
When I watched the replay,
a little hold.
He should have been blown down.
Listen,
right?
Little hold, but
he
for once,
he grabbed him and then scored it in an empty net. That's a penalty.
But Johnny, he wanted it. And how many times?
I'm not taking anything away from the kid's effort. But
and so all I'm saying is, how many times have you and I watched a game over the years and gone, my God, the other team wants it more than we do? How many times have we played Boston and just gone, we're not willing to pay the price. We're not willing to take the chance. We're not willing to make those plays. And then you see somebody like Bobby McMann, who's got that much of a chance, and he's parlayed it now into that much of a chance, and it's growing. And you can see the confidence coming out in the kid. And now he's got the stones to go down and make a play like that. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. Bobby McMann, 100%. Give the kid a chance. Let him go.
Yeah, get him some top 6 minutes. The kids, you got to ride the hot hand. And then the more guys that you have confident like that kid is right now going into the playoffs. And that doesn't just mean you're
contagious.
I'm talking about your American League franchise too. Start to give some of these guys an opportunity to succeed. And once they do, and then, you touched on Bertuzzi. I'm looking at that kind of as a glass half full, glass half empty The one thing that I noticed is when he did get one the other night, I saw a genuine, not surface, I saw a genuine pleasure on the rest of the team. They were so happy for him at that moment. It again, read between the lines, right? He fits in here. I think he knows as well as anybody he hasn't done what he needs to do, and they're still playing pretty good hockey. I think he's traditionally been a later year guy, playoff guy. If he gets in, I mean, he's only been in a couple times, hasn't he? Once.
You know what's really funny? I went back and I looked at. It was funny. I went on a Boston message board this week, and I felt dirty doing it. But I did go on, and I kind of asked, what was the feeling on Bertuzzi? And the general feeling was, hey, listen, we dodged a bullet, but the idea that he was all world, he apparently gave a huge giveaway in overtime that cost him a game.
Oh, did it? Yeah, I didn't watch the series.
In the Florida series. And so I just think it's really it's interesting because the impression that we seem to have here in Toronto is that he was this all-world guy who had 7 games and he was battle-tested and he was going to be great for us and all of those great things. And the reaction from Boston was kind of like, yeah, he had a good series, but like simmer down.
Yeah, but it's Boston.
We're certainly glad that we didn't pay him $5.5 million for 6 goals.
But it's Boston.
Yeah, you're right. Like I feel dirty even talking about it.
Right. Bobby Orr left Boston to go to Chicago, and he couldn't skate and he couldn't skate backwards. And it's Boston.
So hold on. Wait till I tell you this. So, John, I'm sure you'll know this story. Nolan, I don't know if you know. I found this story out years ago. Reading a book by Grapes. Everybody knows I'm a huge Grapes fan. Alan Eagleson was Bobby Orr's agent. Harry Sinden is the general manager of the Boston Bruins at the time. Bobby Orr is a free agent. And Harry Sinden goes to Alan Eagleson and says, listen, we're willing to give Bobby a piece of ownership in the Bruins. We want him to stay. He is the Boston Bruins. Eagleson doesn't tell Bobby Orr what Boston's offer is. The Blackhawks offer him $1 million, and outside of who was the guy that owned the car dealerships in Boston? I can't think of his name.
Derek Sanderson.
Derek Sanderson. I think Derek Sanderson might have been the first to get $1 million.
Well, he got $1 million in Philadelphia in the WHA, though.
That's right. And so, but the Blackhawks offered him, I think, $1 million, and he went to Grapes, and Grapes said to him, "You can't go. If you go to Chicago, they're going to play the crap out of you in the preseason because they need to sell tickets. You're coming off. That was coming off the Pat Quinn hit, and Bobby said to him, he was like, Grapes, I don't want to go, but I have to go because Boston's not offering anywhere close to that. Eagleson never told him because he wasn't going to make any money.
Eagleson wanted the juice off the mill out of Chicago.
That's exactly. He didn't do what was right by him or didn't even know about the contract. He ends up leaving, goes to Chicago, plays half a season, and he's done. So listen, I don't want to get sidetracked on Bobby Orr, but that, it's funny. You just said that. That came to my mind. So that's an interesting Bobby Orr story for you, Nolan. Did you know that one?
Right. Yeah. I heard that one a couple times growing up, but yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, what else have we got on this week here? I'm fighting a little bit of.
Listen, let's get into. We just found out at about 3:00 this afternoon that His Royal Highness, on his decree, has come down from the mount and said that he thinks the 5-game suspension is just perfect. What are your thoughts on Gary Bettman saying? And I want to be clear because I think the statement that he released was really important. He said that regardless of how the Maple Leafs may have felt that he was showing up the opponent. That has no bearing on what took place after the play. Thoughts?
Right. Well, it's kind of hard to combine the two plays into one. Like, 'cause you can't kill someone and then say, "I did it because he did this." To an extent, I think. But yeah, just my general thoughts on the upheld of the suspension is it's already 4 games in, 1 game left. Like, I'm not too worried about it, but
I read it and I had to read it a couple times.
Yeah.
The release, and I like it, and I agree. I have to agree, and I'm never been a Bettman fan.
You're on the Jen Botterill program.
But I'm going to tell you right now, the way he worded it makes sense to me, and because he's right? There's an action. Morgan Rielly crossed the line. Okay, it would be like saying if the guy was hurt and concussed or whatever, he'd get 10 games. I think the way he explained it was really, really good. I think for the we may read too much into it because we're diehard, right?
We're a little partial.
Think about the casual fan that looks at it and says, that makes sense. You can't cross-check somebody in the head anytime. No matter what he does to you or your goalie or, rides the stick skating by your bench, it's never okay to do that in our league, right?
Well,
I think to Nolan's point, it helps that, the Leafs are 4-0. If the Leafs were 0-4, right, I don't know if that appeal goes.
It gets reduced. If we're 0-4, that gets reduced.
Yeah. So I'm okay with it because I like the fact that he explained why. He didn't come back and say, he basically came back and said, look, you know what? He cross-checked another player in the face. And in our game, that's not allowed at any time. I don't care what he did, right? I do not care what he did. And that's fair. That's
okay,
fair.
So let me ask you guys this. And I'm
unless
genuinely
the guy did something to him first. And it was
so
self-defense. That's different.
I'm genuinely interested in your response here, because here's where I have a very, very, very tough time hearing Gary on the pulpit preaching to us about what he thinks is acceptable and not acceptable. I can go on YouTube and I can pull up countless plays just in the last month where guys have been sticked in the face intentionally. And we haven't had a penalty called. Not a penalty called. I've had guys that have been sticked and concussed. You got guys that have been out on the ice, down, and they've lost games. No penalties, nothing called, no supplemental discipline. My issue with Gary Bettman and the Department of Player Safety is less, and I want everybody to know how sincere I am. It's not about Morgan Rielly. If it was Leon Draisaitl or David Pastrnak, I'd feel the same way. The issue is consistency, and there is none. So I can't look at this in a vacuum and say, yes, John, I agree. Listen, in theory, I agree with everything that you just said. He came out, he made a statement, and he said, this is not acceptable under XYZ. I can live with that. I can totally get there. I understand the logic and the sentiment behind it. However, you can't pick and choose your spots. And what we're doing here right now with the Department of Player Safety under George Peros, and especially under Gary Bettman, is we're picking and choosing our spots. We're saying this is acceptable on a Tuesday night because it's between Buffalo and Washington and half the country wasn't even paying attention. But this took place after a whistle in Toronto, therefore the world ends. I think that's where most people kind of have an issue with it, with the whole logic of what we're doing.
There's more to it than that. And I remember when Shanahan did that job, seeing an interview with him, and it's probably on YouTube if you went back and kind of. It was one of those, tell us about your role and how you go through the process. Blah blah. Blah. It was very cool. And he said something that kind of stuck with me, and not a Paris fan at all. I'm with you. Why is this? And Shanny explained it at the time. It was, which kind of is contrary to what Bettman said today, but he said he a cross check in front of the net in the heat of the play is obviously going to be different than Morgan Rielly when a guy scores in the empty net. He's skating. It's not a hockey play anymore. The whistle goes.
I agree.
He comes in, and then you get shades of the Dale Hunter, Pierre Turgeon, blah blah. Right? I get that those two are different. If Morgan Rielly,
John, we're in 100% agreement, dude.
Yeah,
100%.
Morgan Rielly cross checks Mark Gregg in the shoulder in front of the net when they're battling for position, and his stick rides up and gets him in the head. He's going to get 2 minutes, and it's over, right? And the way Shanny explained it is, he said it's so fast. There's so much going on. What's a hockey play? What's not a hockey play? I think he complained at the time that, or somebody did, that using the player's history shouldn't happen, right? Like somebody does something, or doesn't do something in the past, that shouldn't affect what that crime is, right? So if you murder somebody, they don't say, okay, if you stole something before, you get 50 years for murder, but if you didn't steal anything before, you only get 40. So I think the argument is, hey, you know what? There's a punishment for the crime, and it's not less if you're a good Samaritan, and more if you're a guy that's suspended all the time. If it's 5 games, it's 5 games. But there's no way to arbitrarily say that a cross check to the head is 5 games. And Bettman basically said today that a cross check to the head is 5 games, right? So what happens tomorrow when that same cross check Matthews' cross check on Rasmus Dahlin was worse than the one that Morgan Rielly had, and Matthews got 2 games.
Which is my whole point in this crazy nonsense.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
I'm okay. And listen, we discussed this last week, and I think we're all in agreement. Listen, he was going to get suspended. We all agree that it was a suspendable play. He went down. Greg went down like he was Neymar playing for Brazil, because somebody blew on him, and he was down and he was shot and the world was ending and he may never walk again, the way he was down on the ice. Then he got up and skated to the bench, smiled, gave everybody a wink and said, we're all good. And, Morgan's gone for 5 games. Listen, all I'm saying is this. I'm tired of the NHL picking and choosing spots. If this is going to reset the bar and they are going to say from here on in, this is how we're calling it and this is the barometer, listen, I can get there, I guess. I can get there. However, I will bet you dollars to donuts and twice on Sunday that we're going to see a play before the end of the season that's going to be significantly less than what took place there, and we're going to get a 2-gamer.
No question.
Just my feeling.
No question. What do you think, Nolan? I agree. It is what it is. You just got to live with it, right?
Right. John, do you think that's like a Leafs bias or just general inconsistency in the league?
So I got a lot of heat for this. We went viral last week, though, guys. 15,000 views out of nowhere on my my wild and hot take here. Listen, I can't help but look at the way the Maple Leafs have played over the duration of George Parros' tenure. No one has ever confused us with the tough guy team. No one has. I'm sorry, man. Just, you know what? When it was a couple years ago, who was it that we had in Calgary that had the knee call that got 5 games? They should never have gotten 5 games.
I forget.
Come on.
I remember the incident.
I can't believe I can't remember. His name slipped in my mind. But we all looked at the time and we went, it was Jason Spezza. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was Jason Spezza. Jason Spezza got a 5-game for a knee-on-knee. Jason Spezza, 6 games. Jason Spezza has no more intent on knee-on-kneeing anybody than, the Pope does, right? Like it was a garbage nonsense call at the time, and we all went, what? And here we are with Morgan Rielly, and we're saying the same thing. So do I want to believe that George Peros has, something against the Leafs? I listen, I don't know. I'm just looking at the results, and the results would seem to indicate that the Leafs are a violent and offensive team like the 1970 Flyers. And I just don't know how, based on the way we play, we're that team. So I have trouble reconciling the two.
Something interesting with that, though, is that one actually got appealed by Spezza and the Leafs, and it actually got reduced to 4 games. You don't see appeals working very often, but
because, and I think that speaks to the point where everybody went, yes, Spezza wasn't trying to do that. Right? Like,
hey, you know what? I want to cut in here for a sec. Speaking of Spezza, I heard last week a couple, and it slipped my mind in the show last week, but 2 young men we've lost in the hockey world here in the last couple of weeks that, I hit home for me because, Matthew Spezza, so Jason's younger brother, passed away. He's an 86. So I coached against him. He's the same age as Boland and that crew in Toronto. And I coached a North York team in the Metro Toronto, MTHL back then.
MTHL back in the day.
And, but Matthew was a goaltender and a real good, we would always hear about his older brother, Jason, who was an 83. So when we were novice, Jason was minor Pee-wee. So I heard that he passed away. And then also another one was Logan Hunter. And so that's one of the Hunter boys. He played in the Memorial Cup, Dylan's cousin, so Dale's nephew. He passed away as well. I think he had some form of cancer. So hearing that, I watched these 2 young men, as kids playing hockey and growing up, and I know a lot of people that know the family. So I just thought I'd certainly mention that, and that thoughts and prayers to everybody close to the guys. They were tremendous hockey players. I remember as kids and juniors and even a little bit of pro.
Hey, you know what, Johnny? I wish I didn't have something to build on that with, but I think we would also be remiss on a Maple Leafs broadcast if we did not talk about Mark Giordano's dad.
Yeah, for sure.
Mark Giordano's dad has passed away. That's why he's been out the last couple of games. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to Gio and his family. And listen, at the end of the day, believe us, we're all fans and we all love the team, and we're critical of the players and we're, praising the players. But at the end of the day, they're all still just guys like the 3 of us, who have got moms and dads and brothers and sisters. And, it's stuff like this it's never easy. It's never easy.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
So, listen, I'm curious. I want to get your guys' take on this. We've got Arizona coming up. And listen, Arizona does things to us like no team I've ever seen, where they're terrible. They've been terrible forever. Heck, they don't even have an NHL arena. They're so bad. But we can't beat them. I read a stat this week that Arizona in the last 20 years is something like 18-4-2 against us. What's going on in Arizona, guys? Like, why can't we pull anything out in the desert? Is it like, are they on riverboat gambling cruises? Is it like Keystone Lights down there? Like what's going on in Arizona?
Wow. Phoenix is a great place to go for sure.
Lots of golf.
Whether there's only 5,000 seats in the arena or not, the boys aren't upset about waking up to 85 and playing 9 holes before morning skate. So, but they're pros now. They're not they're not out the night before the game. There's too much social media and stuff now. You just and it's a mindset. Phoenix has always traditionally had a lot of. If you look at their rosters over the last 15 or 20 years, there's some key guys on every one of those teams that are local guys. To play against the Leafs is always a big thing. I know in the old building, one of the biggest draws, so they'd sell out about 4 games a year in the old building in Glendale, and it was Toronto, Detroit, because there's a lot of Detroit transplants down in the Arizona area, Chicago, for the same reason. Those were the 3 big draws. But yeah, as soon as the Toronto game, it was sold out because a lot of people could, direct fly down there, do a little family. A lot of people go to Florida and watch a couple games, Leaf games, and play some golf and stuff like that. So it's the building would be a little bit more vibrant than it normally is, which may help the home team, even though everybody's cheering against you. It's tough. Matthews has an opportunity to get 50 there tomorrow. I'm just wondering if that team's going to be there next year. What do you think?
So, listen, I know we've talked about it before, and the hot rumor seems to be that our friends in Utah are hot on the trail of the Arizona Coyotes. And just listen, as an aside here, as a complete aside, I don't know if either of you guys watch wrestling, but The Rock is back in the WWE. And they were just in Utah last week. And if you guys want a great laugh, make sure you go onto YouTube and watch The Rock's 15-minute segment in Utah last week with that crowd. It was like it was 1997 all over again. He had the silk shirts on, and he was yelling at the crowd. It was absolutely fantastic. But
has anybody ever told you that wrestling's not real?
Oh, those are swear words, Johnny. Swear words. And for the record, it's sports entertainment. Sports entertainment.
I went to I think the one was called the WWF back then, and it was here in Halifax at the Halifax Forum, and I'm on the ice there tomorrow morning at 7:00 doing a group, but and it was the main event was Randy Macho Man Savage versus Hulk Hogan here in Halifax, and then there was Coco Beware and that.
Oh, Coco was great, wasn't he?
Yeah. So that's
Nolan's looking at us right now going, Coco
that might very well be the last time I actually watched wrestling. Going back into about 86, 87, something like that. So yeah, I know who The Rock is.
The Rock's back and it's great. He was in Utah last week. Anyways, getting back to Utah. Listen, I got to say, for a lot of people who don't necessarily know the area, Utah is college football extremely, extremely well in the area. College basketball extremely well in the area. The Jazz have always drawn fantastically well. Utah is a great spot for the league to be in. It's a top, believe it or not, Salt Lake City is a top 35 demographic for television markets. It's the biggest demographic that the NHL is not in right now, I believe. To get into the Salt Lake market, when everybody rolls their eyes and goes, "Oh, Utah! Like, why Utah?" Utah, I'm telling you guys, Utah is a legit market for the NHL to get into, and they want in. Utah wants to be in, and the NHL wants them there.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I see a team going there for sure. Whether it's Phoenix, I think that's probably makes sense. But there's some background stuff and expansion money versus sale and who owns them and is the NHL involved. That's going to play itself out here, I think, pretty soon. The one thing that I was in Utah once, and it was right around the Olympics in 2002. They got to change their liquor rules. So I'm at the airport bar.
I've been in Utah too, and I was in Utah on a Sunday once and went, what do you mean?
This wasn't a Sunday. I was flying to Vegas and it was delayed or something. I was going through Utah, and I'm in the bar and I have a drink, and there's a little bit left in the drink, and I order another drink. Right, I'm being proactive. Right, I don't want to wait till my drink's gone.
Smart move, Johnny. Smart move.
So the bartender said okay, and then just stood there. I said, well, I'd like the drink, She wasn't allowed by their liquor laws to pour me a drink until I was finished the one I had. So she was waiting for me to finish it. So then now she tells me that rule. So now I just have a blast for the rest of the delay, right? Because I got the last sip and I'm like, yeah, I'll have another one. And I'll go like this, and she'll be trying to make it, and then I'll put it down and she'll stop. But they were strict on that. That was something that could lose a bar their liquor license.
Johnny, I was there. I was there on a Sunday, and you couldn't buy booze. You couldn't buy it. You couldn't even get it.
You couldn't out here when I was growing up in Nova Scotia. You couldn't. Done. So if you don't get it by 9:00 Saturday night, you don't get it. That's why bootleggers were big growing up out here.
It just Anyways. Interesting times for the league to go to Utah. Listen, something that I thought was interesting that I wanted to ask you guys about. I hear it all the time. We're all sick and tired of seeing gambling ads that are coming in, every 36 seconds in hockey games or baseball games or football games. And, every pregame show is about a parlay and what's going on. What do you guys think the impact of, I think this is a legit question. What do you think the impact of the leagues now being in Vegas means to sports and to gambling on a go forward basis here? Do you guys see this as much of a revenue generator as I do for the league? I think the leagues are going to just dive. If we think it's big now, I think 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you're going to see this even explode further.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it both ways, right? I don't like it for my kid. I don't like my 9-year-old watching a Leaf game with me and learning that, because they look at it. They're going, what does he mean by, over under or a point spread or that
plus
kind of
130
thing, right? So I don't want a kid thinking, at 9 or 10 or 12 or 15 years old, thinking about a game about how they can win money, right? I've got some friends that were big in the poker world, and they gamble on anything. What color is the next? We're in Vegas, and I witnessed it. What color is the next woman that comes around the corner out of the women's bathroom? What color is her hair?
Yeah. And
then they're going, I got 5,000 that says it's red. 5,000 is blonde. Well, you got to give us money. You got to give us odds so I don't want my kid thinking like that for sure. But it's going to get them a TV contract. And that's why Bettman has been reluctant to get out of Phoenix. I think the two that he wants to be in the most right now, I see this going to 36 teams within the next 5 to 10 years. 36 is a great number because you can go 18 and 18, and there's a whole bunch of different things. Because I know I think he wants to be in Arizona, Salt Lake. You just mentioned in that top 35, Atlanta, Georgia. They will go back there. That's a huge, huge, huge TV, right?
And Johnny, I think they're going to Oklahoma.
Yeah, they could.
I'm telling you, everybody laughs at me when I say that to them, but for those of you guys who don't know, I am a ginormous college basketball fan, and if you look at the markets and where they're not, where could you go that you could get the biggest bang for your buck? And listen, if you're Canadian, I get it. You're saying Hamilton, you're saying Toronto, you're saying Quebec. Trust me, it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant, right? You've got now Apple who wants in on streaming deals. You got Netflix who want. Do you know that speaking of wrestling, Netflix just paid $5 billion for Monday Night Raw. $5 billion for 5 years of Monday Night Raw. What do you think the NHL is going to get? You don't think the NHL's looking at that number and going,
"Oh yeah, absolutely."
Do we need to be on terrestrial television anymore?
The other big one's Portland.
Who?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, Portland for sure.
I just had a quick question about the expansion. Do you guys think it's a good idea for the league to continue expanding? So we're at 32 already, and half the league makes the playoffs, half misses. So the playoffs would you'd think would have to expand, and it just seems like a lot of teams.
I think there's enough good players out there to have a good 36-team league.
And listen, again, I'll go back to college football. College football today is probably you can make an argument that college football is bigger than the NFL, right?
Yeah.
It's there, especially in the U.S. College football today just announced that they're switching their playoff structure, right? And it's going to go from a 14 playoff to a 12-team playoff. And believe me, that is not done because they want fairness and equity between, different conferences and different leagues. This is all about how much you can sell on the television, what the contracts can get, and how much money you can pay for advertising in those games.
Yep.
That's all it's about. And so, listen, if the NHL can expand and generate more revenue, and listen, for everybody that's anti-Gary Bettman, it was funny. You guys are going to laugh. I had this conversation with my mom, and she was like, I don't like that Gary Bettman. He comes on and I said, Mom, Gary Bettman has made more money for these owners than anybody else could have over the time period. And at the end of the day, Gary Bettman does not work for the players. He does not work for the fans. He works for the owners. And the owners are thrilled with Gary Bettman because Gary Bettman keeps making them money. And so as long as Gary Bettman is making them money, believe you me, Gary Bettman is more than comfortable in his job and is coasting. Listen, do I want 36 teams? Yeah, I don't know. Sure, fine, maybe. I don't know. Do I think there's enough talent for it? I mean, it depends. Are you entertained watching Phoenix play Washington on a Wednesday night? I mean, if you're not in Phoenix or Washington, I don't know. Maybe you are, maybe you're not.
Yeah, it's much more of a global sport though than if you look at the NFL and the NBA and whatnot. They're traditionally North American guys, right? They're
yep.
American guys. Let's face it. Yeah, the NBA is a little bit more diverse, and if you look at their percentages, but if you look at the leagues that are operating overseas, the top end guys in the Swedish league and the top end guys in the Swiss league, if you could get some more jobs at the NHL level, you're good. I don't think it'll water it down too much. If you had 36, you could have two conferences of 18 and 12 make it in, 6 teams out, 12 in on each side, and do some sort of formula with a bye or there's lots. I mean, I'm not against it.
It would never happen. It would never happen. But I'm just saying, as a fan, the best scenario right now out there to me as a pure, and I'm not talking money. I'm not talking, this is ever feasible. The best way to do this is the way English soccer does it. English soccer
relegation.
English soccer has it on the nose. You know what? You want to be terrible? You're going to be terrible. You're going to lose. You're going to lose the Fazuls. Those games that are relegation games are just as important as those championship games, right? And it really makes for. And I understand the economics in North America, and it won't work. And I understand it.
Not even the economics. You know what it is you don't have passionate enough fan bases in any North American sport, really.
There's probably merit to that, John. There's probably merit to that.
I mean, Toronto, we're going to watch them if they're in the American League or the National Hockey League. Do you think people in Columbus are going to be, spending money to go to watch a Division II game?
No, no, and that's what I mean. I agree with.
I
all
played
the
in it
reasons why
overseas,
it won't
right?
happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a fan, that to me is the best method of being a pure fan of the game. That's my opinion on it.
Oh, for sure. So what this just the 3 games now they have left: Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Rangers, Boston, Arizona.
No. Arizona Wednesday, Vegas Thursday, Colorado Saturday.
Yeah.
I thought we had Boston coming up
next week, I think.
Was that next week? Okay, fair enough.
They're on the road here. They're already they played in St. Louis and now they're in Phoenix tonight or tomorrow night, and then back to back with Vegas. So that's not going to be easy.
No, so Arizona Wednesday, Vegas Thursday, Colorado Saturday.
All right, boys. I'm
next week.
I'm going to shock you guys. I'm going to make a wild and crazy prediction. I'm going to say we're going to take 6 points. Only because I thought we were done. You guys know where I was coming into the suspension with Rielly and the way we were playing. I hated it. I hated everything about it, and I did not like where we were as a team. What I've seen in the last week, I can't not believe that they're going to figure, regardless of the substandard coaching. I had to get that in. Regardless of the substandard coaching, I feel like the Leafs are starting to figure it out. And you know what? Listen, we always play well against teams that we're supposed to play well against. I feel like we're due. We're due in Arizona. We're due. And Vegas, I just feel like, I don't know. Call me crazy. You wouldn't be the first, but I'm going to call 6 points.
Wow. Might be the first time ever that John's predicted over half points.
I told you you'd be shocked. I told you you'd be shocked.
I say 5.
5. Okay, I'll go 4. Lose to Arizona, then beat Vegas, Colorado. The way the Leafs do it.
One thing I want to talk about here. There's a lot of rumors that have been percolating around the trade deadline. The hot one today was that Marc-Andre Fleury has apparently said he is willing to waive his no trade and come to Toronto. Do either of you guys have any interest in Marc-Andre Fleury?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Not today. The best thing that ever happened to Toronto was that leaking, right? Because now Toronto can see who's healthy and see who's going and get Wool back and if you got these 3 guys, you're good, right? Okay. One of them isn't playing well or re-aggravates an injury and things like that, and that he only wants to come to Toronto. They could probably get him for a 5th rounder on trade deadline day if Minnesota's out of it, right?
Right. I say no. I think the Leafs. Samson's been playing really well as of late. Martin Jones, he's a steady backup for what he is. And then we got Joseph Wall come back soon. I think we got 3 capable goalies. Obviously, you don't want Jones or Wall in the playoffs.
Like we always said, if you play the right way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
if you got a healthy body in there that's going to compete and make the timely save when you need it. It doesn't matter. You play the right way. The team's going. Doesn't matter. But if you have 3 healthy options going in, I like that. I like your chances.
Listen, and I go back to what I said when we started this show. All we need, I honest to God, I don't believe the Maple Leafs need Vezina level goaltending. We need average. Give us average NHL goaltending, just average. And look at how well we're playing. And so do I think that we need Marc-Andre Fleury? I think that, just my opinion, I hear people talking about Marc-Andre Fleury, and it reminds me a lot of what I hear about Matt Murray. oh, he's won Stanley Cups and blah, blah. Yeah, it was years ago, guys. It's done. The ship sailed. Is he a great goalie? Maybe. I don't know. Like, is he still a serviceable NHL goalie? Yeah. But do I think we probably have 3 serviceable NHL goalies now that Samsonov's remembered how to play hockey? Yeah, I do. Right? So I look at the team and I go, if we have 3 serviceable goalies between Jones, Wall, and Samsonov, are there ways that we could improve the team that would be more impactful than what you're going to get with a Fleury? Listen, I've been wrong before. I thought Reeves was a great pickup. So I'm not saying I'm infallible, but Marc-Andre Fleury to me screams Matt Murray. And I'm a little timid on that. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm a little timid on the Fleury talk.
I just don't see it as a good use of the little cap space that we have.
I agree.
I'd rather get a defenseman.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it anywhere near now if you were going to do it. You assess what's going on, and that guy's never going to hurt your locker room. The guys love him, right? If he's your 3rd option and you can get him for a pretty half decent price, and Wall's out for the season or Samson, one of them's gone, and you need a 3rd option, you couldn't go wrong with a guy like that. And I disagree with the Murray. I think he's just been around a lot longer than Murray.
No, and be clear though, the difference or the correlation that I'm saying between the two was with Murray was a cup guy. He's won cups before. If he can get back to where he was, it would be great. And so you got to remember, Fleury's not starting for Minnesota.
Right. I'm looking at it as a 3rd guy that
so like
guys go down.
But that's the correlation that I'm going with, John. And people are going, well, he's won cups before. He knows how to do it. If he could, and everything would be fine. Like, I'm just saying, we've heard that story before, and I'm not saying that he's Matt Murray because he's better than Matt Murray, but we can't do the dance of, you won a Stanley Cup 10 years ago, and therefore you're all of a sudden going to figure it out because you got to leave.
No, if he's your number 1 option going into the playoffs,
you got problems. Yeah, I agree.
One thing I wanted to bring up, you just mentioned Reeves. Okay. And let's just do about 30 seconds each on this and we'll wrap it up. But, I read I watched the game, obviously the Anaheim game the other night with Gudas and the big hype and this and that and the other thing. And then I heard people, you know what? Reeves is a chicken shit. He didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I liked Reeves in that game. I liked him a lot. I love what happened to Gudas. Gudas looks like the biggest little punk.
Of course he does.
The National Hockey. He's -5, and he's a plus player. He's a plus player on a bad team, and he's a -5. He grabs Domi because he's so scared that Reeves is going to get a hold of him. He grabs Domi, and Domi's fine, right? He's perfect. He's laughing about it, carrying on. They get into it again. He turned away. Reeves was yapping to him, and he basically like, "Oh, sorry, sir, I'm going to not look at you anymore," and skated away. When Reeves was out there, somebody hit somebody, and then somebody else was coming in, and Reeves just kind of went over and said, yeah, that's not going to happen. You want somebody, you're going to come and get me. I thought that was Reeves' best game in a Maple Leafs uniform. I thought he was engaged. He didn't have to do anything. But a guy with his stature doesn't need to do everything. And don't overthink it. Your presence, if you go about your game the right way, is going to deter. And so now Gudas, like, that's the best revenge for the big scream in Woll's face that you could have ever. He could have punched him out in the first period, right? And it wouldn't have been as satisfying as seeing every time Gudas was on the ice something embarrassing happening to him, and then and then they win. What do you?
So let me ask you this: that everything that you just said, John, I cannot agree with you anymore. I can't. Like, my, I guess, problem or issue with Reeves thus far, maybe the way he's been played, is that I thought that game that you just described was what we were buying all season. That's what I thought we were buying when we got Reeves. I don't disagree with a word that you just said. I agree with you 100,000%. My issue, I guess, with Reeves is that why are we in game 53 where that is what's taking place?
Go back to my opening statement. Okay? Because there's things that happen. There's events that happen within a season that change things.
I know, but
and there's more events like that happen in the last 3, 4, 5 games that have happened all year. Bobby McMann getting a hat trick and then scoring again and then getting 6 goals in 3 games. Matthews has more hat tricks than most teams in the NHL have, right? So there's some things that are happening.
Good stuff.
Great stuff. And then you got a guy like Reeves that was basically a month ago we were talking about, are they going to buy him out or trade him, with an asset to get rid of him? That's what we were thinking. So
because remember the Boston game, right? Remember the Boston game when Liljegren got injured, right?
Yeah, no, it was after Reeves got injured. Remember, and they were saying he wasn't.
It was the Columbus game with the knee. The Columbus game with the knee. Yeah.
Yeah. So these little events that have happened in positive ways, including that game and the answer to Gudas. Gudas was mocking them coming in. Oh, yeah, that was so long ago. I can't believe you guys are still talking about it. He screamed in a rookie goalie's face, right? And I think Reeves handled himself. So now, does that give a guy like Reeves, who thought he was going to be shipped out of town 3 weeks ago, and now he's there and he's actually he's reading the internet, or somebody in his circle is, and saying, oh, like people are saying that you're soft now, or you're all talk or whatever. No, he can be all talk. He's paid his dues. There's not one guy in the National Hockey League that isn't aware that Ryan Reeves can fight, and he's a big, strong man that will hurt you, right? And he's going to still have to do that, but it's entering yourself into these situations the right way and with the right presence, right? It's not always coming in with your mitts off and throwing bombs. It's about skating in front of that guy that's going to get your teammate and saying, yeah, you know what? That's not going to happen. That makes your guys bigger. It makes the guys on your team grow a little bit and realize that, anyway, you're right. Game 53, but guess what? It happened. So now let's see moving forward how Sheldon uses him in these situations and gets him minutes against the people that maybe we need him out there policing, for lack of a better term.
Well, hey, I love your trust in Sheldon. But listen, I do have a question that just came in. What do we think about Tavares sliding down to 3C and playing with McMann and Robertson?
Yeah, I'd look at it. Absolutely. Like I said, I'd look at anything.
Do you think it's a permanent thing, or do you think it's just
no?
Coming back from injury, easing him back in?
It was asked. It was asked. I think they played the other night with the 3 of them for a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to surprise you guys. I think it would be brilliant if this coach could show that he's rewarding guys like McMann. I don't think he likes Nick Robertson. That's my personal belief on this coach with the way he's utilized Nick Robertson since he's been in the lineup. I think there's something going on there that maybe we're not aware of. But Bobby McMann has earned, in my opinion, he's earned his shot. The guy's been lights out, man.
I play him with his buddy Matthews.
John, I don't know about that, because I'm going to say,
why not?
Here, listen, I'm going to say this to you. I think that Matthew Nyes is so underrated. Auston Matthews is having the best goal scoring time of his career with a rookie playing on his wing. Matthew Knies does so many things away from the play and away from the puck that people don't seem to realize that generates opportunities for Matthews and Marner to connect.
I'm going to give you guys and our listeners and viewers food for thought. Okay, and I want you to think about this, and I want you to watch the 3 games. Okay, and I obviously don't consider myself an expert. I don't consider myself, but I've been around the game a long time, and from a scouting and coaching and developing young players. I think Matthew Knies is a center iceman. I really do. I see a lot of similarities in Matthew Knies' game to Auston Matthews' game. Little things with the size of the hands. If you look at the way he protects the puck and gets the body between body and position in the corner and doing that punch turn with the knee out, both to the left and to the right, that's elite, right? That's elite. That's a guy that I think can drive his own line. That's a guy that, I don't mind him being with Auston because he's learning how Auston plays. And I think this kid, he's not going to be Auston Matthews. He's probably not going to be anybody when it's all said and done. But this kid, I'm telling you, I believe he's a center iceman. So, if you want to write into the show or comment on it or whatever, let me know what you think. But watch his game over the next couple of games. And then next week, I'm going to ask you the same question, what you think.
And listen, I'm not knocking Matthew, not belief. Dude,
no, I'm not knocking him at all either. I'm
singing his praises. I'm singing Matthew Knies' praises.
But I think he's a center iceman. I think we should be talking about him centering the second line or the third line and maybe giving him the opportunity to drive a line. Maybe give him Nylander and Bertuzzi for a bit and see what he does with them.
Okay, so I'm so glad that you brought it up. I'm so glad you brought it. And I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to moving him down. But can we talk about why is it that regardless of what he does on the ice, nobody can supplant Tyler Bertuzzi on the second line? Like what more Nick Ritchie? How many more Nick Ritchie moments do we have to see before you go?
I always have to find something to complain about. I think he's been really good lately. I think his chances are up there.
Why? Because he's got 1 goal in 23 games. He's been really good.
Have you watched the chances he's getting? They're not going in. If he's not getting chances, then I'd be going, okay. When you're consistently getting chances and looks, they're gonna go in. They're gonna go in.
Except they're not.
And the team's having success. So
but I mean, except they're not. Like that's like I hear the thing about chances, and you got to be good to get in spots to get chance. Listen, I hear all that. Listen, I hear it all. But like, you're going to tell me that if Bobby McMann had those same chances, Bobby McMann wouldn't have scored more, or Robertson wouldn't have scored more?
Apples and oranges.
I hear you saying it's apples and oranges, except for the fact that he's played 53 games and has 6 goals, and McMann has played 23 games and has 8 goals. So, I don't know about it. I'm just, for me, I'm tired of seeing Tyler Bertuzzi given chance after chance after chance after chance after chance because he's making 5.5.
You happy with the record that the team is right now?
Yeah, the record, I'm trying. I've
gone. I'm asking you a question.
No, hold on. I've gone this whole show and I've been positive.
About the individual stuff.
No, stop. No, because I've been positive. You see, you're trying to make me negative.
Tyler Bertuzzi's a pro. He's going to figure it out.
I've been so positive this whole show.
Now you're a key.
I've been whole positive.
You're going to be a Bertuzzi lover by the end of the season.
Oh my goodness! I would love. Okay, so let me go on record. Just like I would love to go on record at the end of the Stanley Cup Finals and tell you that if I have another child, I will name him Sheldon. I would love to be that guy. Okay.
I think you should get like Post Malone, Get a
I
couple
should
tattoos over
totally
your
do it.
eyebrows,
Just get
and put
Sheldon tatted right across the forehead.
Sheldon on this side and Bertuzzi on the other.
Or you know what? Just get it combed in or buzzed into my hair. Like I'm totally with it. All I'm saying is at a certain point, we got to stop looking at what the contract is, and we got to start looking at what the production is. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
They are.
I hope so. Anyways, good show, boys.
See you next week.
Yeah. Thank you as always to our sponsors, Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Grill. And yeah, go Leafs go.
Go Leafs go.